Hey, Biz Hackers, how's everyone doing? It was a lot of fun getting to hang out with you guys on Monday night at Concrete Beach. So thank you once again for coming out. And I also want to take this opportunity to apologize. As you guys noticed on Monday night, we experienced some technical difficulties at the beginning of the class. I'm trying to get the projector to work. So these demos were originally intended to be done in class, but since we ran short on time, we're doing them. You're seeing them for the first time now via these videos. So I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible to ensure that you guys understand all of the steps. Really want you guys to do well in this first milestone assignment. So if you have any questions, reach out to your coaches. Feel free to reach out to me as well, and I will try to help you out as best I can. But let's begin. Before we get into the MailChimp portion, actually, as a reminder, there is a spreadsheet that is saved to Google Classroom, which is the contact list for all of your classmates. So that is the list that you're going to be uploading now in the process that I'm about to demo for you guys. So make sure prior to beginning the steps on MailChimp, that you've gone into Google Classroom and have downloaded the list. And you'll see why momentarily. So let's begin. First thing you're going to do is click on this list menu, this option right up in the top left-hand corner. And unless you had an existing MailChimp account where you already had some lists added and saved, you're not going to see this table that you see in my account. So this will likely appear blank for you guys. And what you want to do is click on the Create List button on the far right. What MailChimp is asking us here is if we're creating a new list by subdividing an existing list that you might have. But for the purposes of the milestone assignment, we're going to create a brand new list. So click on the Create List button on the center. And let's run through some of this information that MailChimp is collecting from us. So let's start at the very beginning. Here is a list name. It's a free text field. Here, MailChimp is giving you some pretty good examples right under the field and this text in the bottom of good and bad examples of what to name your list. So I'm just going to name this list BizHack Class since it contains all of your contact information. And just kind of keep the name something simple, something easy that you're going to remember and recognize what it is just at a glance. The from email address should be your business email address. Keep in mind, this is the email address in which people are going to get to reply to these emails they're going to be receiving from you. So if you have a separate inbox where you field customer questions or replies, that's the email address you're going to want to place here and not your primary work email address. So that way you don't start getting flooded with questions or requests or anything of that nature. So keep that in mind when adding your default from email address. People are going to have the ability to reply to that email address. Secondly, or rather third, the from name. So as you guys can see here, MailChimp is recommending that you add something like your company name, but like we spoke about in class, you don't want to do that. You want to use your actual name for a couple reasons. One, you really want to give that email personal touch so that the recipient feels like they're getting an email from you and that they weren't just part of some email blast that was sent out by a company. And secondly, it also helps your email to fall into the recipient's primary inbox versus their promotional inbox. So a lot of these email clients have spam filters or just filters in place that sort of look at the type of email that's being received. And so, like we spoke about in class, if it has a lot of heavy photos or videos, or graphics, it'll assume that it's a promotional email and it'll dump it into the recipient's promotional inbox. So by keeping the sender by using your actual name as a sender, then the likelihood that it'll land in the recipient's primary inbox increases. So next, you're going to have to the email that that the recipients receive needs to let them know how they got to join your email list. So you need to show, as MailChimp is indicating here, write a short reminder about how they joined your list. And this also complies with the Canned Spam Act, which we also spoke about in class. So I highly encourage you guys to research the Canned Spam Act to become a little better informed about it. But MailChimp does a pretty good job of capturing all of the information from you in order to be compliant with that, such as the case with this field and the next. So they give you some pretty good examples here as to what you should type here. And this text is going to appear at the bottom of the email that the recipient receives. So whether they subscribed directly on your website, or maybe you collected this information in person at an event that you hosted, something along those lines, just be very clear about it, so that the reader knows, will be reminded as to how you obtain their contact info. So I'm just going to type gibberish here, just to kind of keep things moving. And then when you established your MailChimp account, you were asked for your business's physical address. Again, this is MailChimp ensuring that you're complying with the Canned Spam Act. So you should see your business's physical address there. There you have the ability to edit it if you need to as well. So the next few options, these checkboxes, I'm going to recommend that you leave them all blank. I will quickly run through as to why. If you click off the enable double opt-in, well, the reality is, at the beginning, there's in the next step you're going to see, you have the ability to either upload or create a new list, which is our objective for the milestone assignment, and you also have the ability to create a sign up form. MailChimp doesn't do a very good job of sort of presenting those options at the beginning. But these form settings here, they really do just pertain to whether you're creating a form in the next few steps. Since we're not, for the purposes of the milestone assignment, we're creating an actual list that we're uploading. Let's leave these checkboxes blank. As is the case for notifications, if you want to receive notifications for any of these actions from people unsubscribe, if you want to receive a summary of subscribe or unsubscribe activity. I mean, personally speaking, I get plenty of emails already. If there's anything I want to learn about my subscriber list, I would just rather, I personally rather log into MailChimp to check up on things like that. So I'm going to leave those blank, or rather unchecked. I recommend you do the same. Let's click on save. So in these next few steps is where you're going to upload the list. So as I mentioned a moment ago, you have the ability to create a sign-up form here as well, which will be displayed in the form of a pop-up on your website, which so it can either be a pop-up, or you can get the HTML code to embed it on your website. So you have a few options there. Let's go over how to import contacts, which is what we want to do since we have a CSV file. Here you're going to, by default, CSV file or text file is going to be selected for you already. So let's just leave that marked off as is. And let's click on next on the bottom right-hand corner. Let's find the file that we're going to upload. So by now you should have downloaded a file from Google Classroom. I'm going to find it on my locally saved files here. That'll populate the name of the file right into this field. Let's click next in the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, and I'm kind of glad that this happened. So what MailChimp is telling us here is that they have some unmatched columns. The reason for that is because some of the cells in the spreadsheet that you downloaded were blank, as you can see, like in the first two rows here, for example. So I think we can do without that, company information on the list. What you can do is just skip right over that. So if you do encounter this, which you likely will, since we're all using the same list, just click skip. And then by doing so, that column in the spreadsheet will not be imported, but everything else is. So first name, last name, and email address will all be imported into MailChimp with no problem. So let's click next on the bottom right-hand corner again. Here we go, last step before we create the list. So MailChimp is confirming that the file was imported successfully, and then that we're importing 3 of the 4 columns on the list. And by default, it's going to check off the subscribed option. So let's go ahead and leave that as we're adding brand new subscribers. Then we're going to click on import on the bottom right-hand corner. And here we are. So you should be seeing something like this, where you're seeing a table of people's email addresses followed by their first and last name. So if you're seeing this, you successfully imported the list. You also should have received a confirmation email from MailChimp letting you know that the import is complete. And if you now click, if you want to also confirm that everything was imported successfully, click on lists. And if you're using MailChimp for the first time, you now have your first row on your list table. If you already had some existing lists, then you'll see that it's been added to the top of the table. It's been added. It should have been added as the first row on your list of lists. So this concludes the demo on importing contact lists or importing CSV or text files into MailChimp to create new lists with them. Again, if you have any questions, contact your coaches. Feel free to reach out to me. I've got a couple more videos headed your way, so stay tuned for those. Thanks.